This is the practice of the fourth mindfulness training: loving peace, loving speech, and deep listening. A bodhisattva is someone who can talk, he can speak with a kind of language called gentle, loving speech. A bodhisattva is someone who can listen with compassion. And if you train for 3 days, you might become a bodhisattva. And you might talk to him or to her with that kind of language. And you might listen to him, to her with that kind of compassion. You don't have to practice 10 years in order to do that. A few days may be enough. Father, Daddy, I know you have suffered so much in the past many years. I was not able to help you to suffer less. Instead, I have reacted angrily in such a way that make the situation worse. Daddy, it's not my intention to make you suffer. That's only because I did not see the suffering in you. I did not understand the suffering in you. So please, Daddy, tell me what is in your heart. Tell me what is the difficulties, the despair, the conflict in your heart. Please help me so that I will understand. If I understand, I will not react like the way I have in the past. Please help me. If you don't help me, who will help? That is the kind of loving speech, kind speech that you can do, you can use. If you learn to look in such a way that you can see the suffering in that person and recognize the roots of the suffering in him or in her. It's like a doctor. If the doctor does not see the sickness, the nature of the sickness, he cannot help, she cannot help the patient. It's like a psychotherapist. If she does not understand truly the suffering, the cause of suffering of her patient, she cannot help. That is why understanding suffering is a crucial practice in Buddhist tradition. In fact, the first noble truth is suffering, and the second noble truth is the cause, the nature, the root of suffering. And then if you are able to say like that, the other person will open his heart and tell you what is in his heart. And now you have an opportunity to practice deep listening, to practice compassionate listening. Compassionate listening is a wonderful practice. If you can listen for 1 hour with compassion, you help the other person suffer much less in 1 hour. And compassionate listening is a kind of listening that has compassion as the essence. Because if you do not practice mindfulness of compassion, you cannot listen very long. You may have a good intention to listen to him, to her, in order to help him or her suffer less. Your intention may be very good, but if you do not know the practice of mindfulness of compassion, and then you may lose your capacity of listening, because what the other person say may be full of wrong perceptions, may be full of bitterness, accusation, blames, and that might touch off irritation and anger in you, and you lose your capacity of listening to him or to her. That is why you have to train yourself first before you begin the practice with him or her. You have to got the time to look and to see the suffering in him, in her. And you must be ready before you practice. And during the time the practice, you should maintain the mindfulness of compassion alive. Mindfulness of compassion means you are aware, you remember that you listen to him or to her with only one purpose, that is to help him or her empty their heart and suffer less. I am listening to him with only one purpose, to help him to suffer less. Therefore, even if he says wrong things, if he is bitter, if he blames, I still continue to listen. He may say wrong things, but I am not going to interrupt him. Because if I interrupt him and correct him, and then I will transform the session into a debate, and that it will ruin everything. So breathe in and out mindfully during the whole session of listening, and remember just one thing. Listening to that person, I only have a purpose. Give him a chance to suffer less. Just remember one thing throughout the session. And you can tell yourself that his misunderstanding, his judgment, based on prejudices and misunderstanding. In a few days, I will have a chance to offer him some information so that he can correct his perception, but not now. Now is only to listen. And if you can keep that alive in your heart, in your mind, I listen only with one purpose, not to correct him, but to allow him a chance to speak out and suffer less. Just that. It's called mindfulness of compassion. And if you can keep your mindfulness of compassion during 1 hour, when you listen to him or to her, you are a bodhisattva. Because the energy of compassion is in your heart. You are inhabited by the energy of compassion. You are safe. And if compassion is there, what the other person say, even with a lot of wrong perception, even with bitterness, anger, blames, accusation, you are safe because you are protected by compassion. The best protection is the protection with compassion. So you can sit there and listen for 1 hour or more. Of course, you have the right to tell him or her the truth, but not now. Later on.